Oh, wait a minute. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Thank you all for being here tonight with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
And thank you as always, Robert. And we always greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And we got two stories for you tonight, so hang out with us.
Oh, yes, two stories. Can't wait. Tonight we're going to be talking about Simon Kenton. Now, how does this boil into Indian stuff? Well, he was quite the Indian fighter, hero, settler of Kentucky, adopted into the Shawnee nation of people. He really was like the clone of Daniel Boone, only a little bit later in life. And we will get to know him because he saved Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone would have been dead if it wasn't for Simon Kenton. And it boils into last week's story of Simon Girty, because Simon Kenton and Simon Girty were blood brothers, which actually saved Simon Kenton's life later down the line. Can you believe all that?
We'll find out.
That's right. So begins our story of Simon Kenton. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I see Scotty Boy's in the house, and he is saying, take your time. He just brushed up on old Simon Kenton, and he sounds like a real hero. This evening, Mr. Bob, Mr. David, evening. Oh, there you go. Anyway, anyhow, so as it goes, yes, I know, isn't it something? All these people were named Simon, but I think back in the day, people took names, and correct me if I'm wrong, if like all the names of the past, these people took names from the Bible. Is that not kind of correct?
Yeah, or other famous people.
Yes, or other famous people like Daniel Boone. Daniel is in the Bible. Simon is in the Bible. Daniel Boone's son was named Israel. Go figure. There's Elderberry. Elderberry's in the house. And like I said, they took a lot of names from the Bible, like Mary, Luke, and so forth and so on. I just seems like it just pops into my head a lot. And there's Susie Q. Susie Q's in the house. Thank you for being here. We got an interesting story tonight. It's going to be really good. So it brings us to Simon Kenton. Have you been to Virginia much?
No, not much, but I have been to Virginia.
Oh, yeah, because I know it's up that way. It's up that way.
Oh, it's a long way from here.
Well, not as long as it is from here, North Dakota. I've been to Virginia before, but just passing through, kind of went to the coast, went to where is it? Somewhere over there. But anyway, I can't remember the name of the town. Anyway, it'll come to me sooner or later. Some naval base. I can't ever remember where it is. But anyhow, get back to our story. Simon Kenton. Simon Kenton was born on the 15th of May, 1755. He was born in Fauquier County, Virginia, which is now I think it's called Prince William County, Virginia, or vice versa, at the headwaters of the Mill Run. It must have been a river of some sort. He had an interesting life, lived a long time, to 81 years, believe it or not. He got married twice, had one child out of wedlock, and ended up with 11 children, believe it or not. And we're going to get all into this shortly. but that's just a little bit of a life. I mean, you live to 81 years. I mean, you're going to have some stories to tell, and you're going to have some adventures. I mean, David, yourself, you're getting up there in years. You got a lot of adventures under your belt now, huh?
Yep, 71, working on 72. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point. Hey, and there's Chloe's in the house. Thank you for coming tonight. Anyway, so that's all good. I bet you Chloe's at work, like she usually is, but I am hoping that work is an easy day today. There you go. Well, when he was born in Virginia, he was a farm boy. His father and mother were immigrants, Irish immigrants. His dad was Irish immigrant. His mother was a Scottish immigrant, Scottish, Welsh, whatever, something in there. And they were poor. They were poor. He was a farm boy till he was about 16. This is the big thing, he didn't like farming. And he was just bored. He was kind of weak and spindly, so things weren't going so good for old Simon Kenton. But Simon fell in love. He fell in love with some girl. And that's where things went wrong. You know how it goes. When you fall in love with a woman, back in the day and you're 16, you're full of piss and vinegar, but another guy was in love with her too, and he wanted to marry her, and so did Simon Kenton. So as things went, he kind of left her be, but then this guy was going to marry her, and somewhere along the line, things went bad. This guy, his name was Lichman. They got in a quarrel. And he said, instead of taking out back, they took it out back to the woods, and they just had a big brawl, because that's what they did in the day. There's no cops to call. You just beat each other up until, somebody wins and somebody crawls off to the side and says,
that's enough.
Yeah, I'm done.
Uncle.
Yeah. Scotty Boy says, same old story. Yeah, same old story. Don't get messed up with them like that. Elderberry says, hey, YouTube has chat messed up. We can't see each other in chat. Oh, Elderberry, are you on the Robert V channel or the Milky Way channel? I think you are on the Robert V Adventures channel. That's why. Switch over to the Milky Way Soul Tribe channel, and that's where all the chat's going right now. I can see you there, but you're not seeing me here. So get on over to the Milky Way. Unless you want to stay over to the Robert V channel, and it's good, fine, watch it over there, but I don't know how many people are going to be in chat. Anyway, I can see all on chat over here. So that's where the place to go. And when you get over to the Milky Way channel, I will see it on the other chat channel I got over here. I got lots of screens. So there he is. He says, hello, everybody. Anyway, so Simon Kenton, this is where his adventure begins. Little farm boy gets mixed up with this Leachman character, and they battle it out. And he was, actually, let me skip back a little bit. Remember, he was in love with this girl, and he's only 16. And this is the backstory. The Leachman guy was a big bully, and basically kicked him in the butt and said, get the hell out of here. Well, Simon decided he couldn't beat this guy up. There was no way. So for like a year or so, he took on the hardest jobs, and worked hard. He beefed himself up, put it that way, by working hard. He took the roughest, toughest jobs out there known to man, and he beefed himself up. And then when he met up with the Lichman guy later on over this girl, they had a brawl out in the woods, and this time Simon kicked his butt. He not only kicked his butt so good, he thought he killed him. And he decided, well, there's no girl in the world going to jail or getting hung for it, because there's no, you'll just do a little time and then you'll get out. You'll be fine. It's the hangman's noose for you, man. No second chances. You killed a guy, you're out of here. And so he decides to take off. And he takes off. He's like 16 or 17 at this point, still a young man, leaves the woman behind and heads for the west, which is basically Ohio. And on his way, he has no money and he becomes basically a beggar. But he has a plan for this begging, and he goes from house to house, and he would knock on the doors, and he would say, "Is this, John Smith's house?" And they would say, "Yes, yes, it is." "Well, my name is Simon Smith. I must be your long-lost relative. I just need a place to stay. I'm on my way out west. Can you feed me and put me up for the night?" And he did that over and over and over again as he made his way west. Believe it or not. That's a pretty good scheme, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, he meets up eventually with this guy named Butler. And Butler and him hit it off. He did the same kind of thing. But Butler, he's a little older, kind of takes him in, and he stayed a while. They hit it off real good, and they start hunting and fishing or whatever they got to do. They're trapping, and they're living out in the wilds. Everything is good. But one day, it's winter in Kentucky, and it's Indian country, or not Kentucky. It was Ohio, and it's Indian country, and it's winter. They're wet, so they take off their clothes to dry. They start a big fire. They take off their clothes. They're standing by the fire, shivering, half naked. They're throwing buffalo robes or something over top of them to stay warm while their clothes are drying on sticks over the fire. When all of a sudden, Simon sees something. It's Indians, a party of like 12 Indians. And both the two started running. Run, they did. They dropped their cloaks, and in the snow, barefoot and naked, they ran for their lives because these Indians are chasing them. And of course, the Indians got guns and they shoot, and his poor friend dies. He gets shot in the shoulder and eventually chopped in the head with a tomahawk and killed. And old Simon, he just runs for the hills as fast as he can. And he ran for quite a long time till the Indians gave up. And then he, went back. I'm sure he got his clothes, or he was they were running to the bear trap. They had set a bear trap, and he yells out to his friend, "Hey, I'll meet you at the bear trap." Well, his friend gets shot. He keeps running, gets to the bear trap where they had extra supplies stashed. And there he gets his clothes and he gets some things. And, he's back on track. Well, anyway, Simon learned something out of that. And he learned how to, from then on, he learned how to load his, and he was famous for this, loading his rifle while running. And he was a good runner. He was tall and skinny. Remember, I was telling you he was kind of a skinny guy? Well, he was also tall. He was like 6 foot something, 6'1" or 6'2". So that was really big for the day. He was a big guy at this point. He finally started filling out, and he learned how to load his rifle and run. And that kind of saved his life and a bunch of experiences. Well, as time progressed, he took on the name of his friend there, Butler, because he was thinking that he killed his, remember he beat that guy up and he thought he killed him. So he took on a new name. So now he was Simon Butler. And in 1878, he was in Kentucky. That's when he outran those Indians in 1873. But in 1874, there was the Indian War with Chief Logan. We talked about Logan for quite a while. And Simon, now Butler, he was a spy for Virginia. And I got some pictures because who wants to look at my ugly face? You know.
Hang on a
Anyway,
second. Didn't you say he was born in the 1700s?
yes, he was born in 1755. Now it's
Okay, wait,
1770.
hang on. If this was 1873, think about how old he was.
Yes.
18.
Yes.
You said 1873.
Oh, 1773. Sorry. My bad. 1773.
Okay, because I was like, God Almighty, he's 100 and what? He's 130 years old.
No,
You know.
I misspoke on that one.
Okay, I'm sorry, but my brain was not keeping up.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry,
Well,
I interrupted, but it cleared up my head.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna go to this. I gotta present screen, share file. Okay. Anyway, in 1773, he was almost caught, but he outran those Indians, even though he was naked, and he ran for his life, but he made it. In 1774, he joined up with the as a spy for Virginia, for the colonists and the Americans on the American side, and somewhere in there was who was it? Simon Girty. He met up with Simon Girty, and remember Simon Girty was fighting the war too at that point, but he didn't get promoted. They didn't want to promote him because they thought he was too much of an Indian. Remember we talked about that last week?
Yeah.
But he teamed up with Simon Girty, and they became really good friends to the point where they became blood brothers, where they would slit their wrists and press them together and hold their arms or hands together and press their wrists together in some Indian type tradition, brought on by Simon Girty, and became blood brothers. And they were really good friends for a long time, and that friendship saved his life later on. They fought in the war of the battles of Point Pleasant. They explored Ohio. And then Simon Girty went to and served fighting in Lord Dumore's war as a scout. He was also guiding European settlers to across the Appalachian Mountains to Ohio. He fought in Dumore's War, which was against the Shawnee and the Mingo. So that was one of those battles over there. So he went all the way to Boonesboro in 1875. He moved there to
1775.
1775. Why? I don't know why I keep saying 1875. 1770. I got it wrote down as 1775. He went to Boonesboro, Kentucky, following the traces of Daniel Boone. And while he was in Kentucky, he on his way there, believe it or not, there's a story that goes, and I'll tell you really quick. This is kind of a funny one. He found one of the first people he met in Kentucky was Daniel Boone. As he's walking through the woods, he hears a man singing at the top of his lungs. And he creeps down in the bushes and he walks through and he finds this man walking in the woods naked with his gun on his shoulder, singing at the top of his lungs. And who might that be but Daniel Boone himself? I guess he scared the living crap out of him. But there's more to this story. So somehow or another, Simon Kenton and Daniel Boone, who is, Simon was about half his age, became really good friends. He was kind of like a father figure to him. Well, then there was the Battle of Boonesboro. And Simon Kenton was there for that, which was quite the battle. And let's see, where is my thing here? The Battle of Boonesboro. And this is where he saved Daniel Boone's life. As you can see in the picture here, Daniel Boone was struck in the leg by a lead, one of those big giant bullets that they had back in those days, coming out of one of those muskets from the Indians, which broke his leg. Laying there out of the battlefield, Simon Kenton, doing his running, loading trick that he did, loading his gun while running, loaded it, fired at 50 yards, hit the Indian, killed him dead. He picked up Daniel Boone, threw him over his shoulder, and carried him back to the fort to safety. Believe it or not, becoming the hero of the day. Let's see. Then we move on. He in 8 and 7. I was going to do it again. It's 1777. And poor Simon Kenton, he gets captured by the Indians again. He gets captured. Why did he get captured? He got captured because he was stealing with another man. They were stealing horses from the Indians.
Ooh.
They stole. Yeah, not a good thing. They stole.
Not a good thing.
Yeah, they stole a couple of hundred horses or so from the Indians, and they were taking them back. And all of a sudden, the Indians surprised him and caught him, and which wasn't a very good thing. Oops, let me shrink that. Anyway, the Indians caught him, and what did they do? They tied him to a pole, and they were going to burn him alive. But they killed his friend that was with him capturing the horses, and they decided, well, we got another fate for Simon Kenton. And you know what fate that was? That was I got the picture of it. Oh, yeah. Well, they decided they were going to have some fun with Simon Kenton. And because he stole them horses, what they did was they tied him onto a horse. As you can see in the picture here, they tied him onto a horse and run him from Indian village to Indian village, whipping and beating the horse as he was tied on this horse, screaming for his life. Can you believe that? Well, that did not kill him. So they come up with a better torture. I don't know which way they did it, but as you see, they tied him on a horse and ran him through the brush and the bushes when he had his hands behind his back. And of course, he probably didn't have any clothes on because the Indians would strip you naked and make you suffer. So they went ahead and they did that. Then they decided they were going to make him run the gauntlet. Now, most people running the gauntlet died. They never made it through running the gauntlet. Now, you can see by this picture, this is not quite the gauntlet that they would have had. This is kind of a depiction. He would have not had clothes on, first off. They painted
and see, look how fancy those people are dressed up. They just would have been in loincloths and stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes. Well, I'm sure depending on what time of year it was, too. But anyway, the point is that they made him run the gauntlet. They would strip you naked, and then they would paint at least your face black, because that black represents death. And they would make you run. Now, and they would stand on both sides and make like a tunnel. And the Indians would hold clubs. They would hold sticks that were between 4 and 6 feet long. And as you ran, they would try to whack you with this stick or a club as hard as they possibly could. If you fell down, you would have to restart. Now, how far do you have to run? Can you even guess?
Guess. How far do you want? But what? Go ahead.
So the Indians got together. They said that one of the runs that he had to make was a quarter of a mile. The Indians lined up side by side for a quarter of a mile. And he had to run that quarter of a mile without getting knocked down or getting killed. Believe it or not. Well, anyway, he did this, and since he survived, they couldn't believe it. They were like, "Oh my gosh, this is a tough one," and they brought him from town to Indian village to Indian village and made him run the gauntlet over and over and over. Apparently, he went at least 9 times to run the gauntlet, which is unbelievable, that you could survive that long. One day, he meets up, he's in this Indian village, and they decide that they're going to burn him at the stake. And that turned into be kind of a bad thing and a good thing all at the same time. His friend, his blood brother, Simon Girty, was there. And Simon Girty sees him, almost didn't recognize him, except he's seen Simon Girty and calls out to him and says, "Hey, Simon, help me. My brother, help me, help me." Well, at that point, Simon walks over and sees that it's Simon Kenton, and he pleads with the chief of the tribe to spare his life. And the chief was like, "No, we're having too much fun with this guy." By this time, the guy is, he's skinny, he's beaten, he doesn't even, he's really bad off. So he couldn't get the chief to release him, but he says, "Why don't you take him to the next village over where you can burn him at the stake and get a really good crowd?" That way, Simon Girty knew that the next town over, there was a British fort over there in Detroit. And that's where they took him, an English post, Detroit, Fort Detroit. And over there, they treated him well because it's the English. And then eventually they paid a ransom and he escaped. Somehow or another, he escaped while he was at that fort. And then he made his way back to Kentucky, believe it or not. If you escape, you run back to where you started from, right? Anyway, he gets going, he escapes, and he goes back to Kentucky. You can see they even made statues of him. He's a real famous guy. Okay, believe it or not, now in 1778, after he escaped, which means he was in capture for over at least a year, he traveled back to Kentucky, but somehow he went to stay with the Shawnee people. And there he was adopted into the Shawnee tribe. He was known, I forget what his Indian name was, but he was known for, his runs of the gauntlet and how tough he was. Anyway, at that point in 1878, he joined up with George Rogers Clark at Fort Saxville, and let's see. Let me go back a bit. In 1878, when he escaped, he lived with the Shawnee people for a short time. 1778, yes. Not 1878. 1778, he went back and lived with the Shawnee people with, believe it or not, of all people, Simon Girty's brother, James. Because remember, the Girty brothers were all raised by Indians. And so he went and lived with Simon Girty's brother, James. And then he joined up with George Rogers Clark in Fort Saxville, where he battled against the Indians. From 1793 to 1794, he started fighting in the Northwest Indian Wars. The Northwest Indian Wars were basically the first big wars against the Indians. Remember, the Constitution was signed in 1776, and we were declared, the United States or the colonies were declaring their war from England, and now they were fighting the Indians because the British were kind of given arms to the Indians, so it was a kind of a British Indian War kind of thing going on. Remember, we talked about that with Simon Girty. He was in with the British and the Indians trying to fight the white man coming across. It was an awful mix-up, can you imagine? Okay, in 1794, he battled in the war with Mad Anthony Wayne. Believe it or not, how would you like to have a name like that? Mad Anthony Wayne. Not just Anthony Wayne, Mad Anthony Wayne. In the Battle of Fallen Timbers, which is a big battle with the Indians. In 18, and then we skip forward to 1812, and he fought in the War of 1812, believe it or not. Then he moved to Maysville after the war was over in 1813. He moved to Maysville, Kentucky, where he bought large tracts of land. And there he met up with a lady named Martha Dowden, and he married her.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Where did he get the money?
Probably from he was land granted it from from Virginia or something like that. He was from fighting in the wars. He was granted large tracts of land from the government.
Okay. All right, because I was like, so if he's been fighting and he's an Indian, how did he get money to? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, because he did all that war service, fighting in the Fallen Timbers War. He was fighting in the other wars with the Indians too. He was in a lot of battles. I mean, that's what he did best, was fighting these wars. And he was also, at the same time, he was leading people across the Appalachian Mountains into Kentucky and Ohio, stuff like that. So he was literally all over the place there. Well, he met up with this gal. Actually, he had a child with an unwed child in 1773 with a gal, Christina Ruth. We don't know really what happened to her, but back in the 1800s, early 1800s, he met up, and when he got these tracts of land in like 1813, he married this gal, Martha Dowden, and they had three children, I think it was. And then the house burnt down, and she was killed in the house fire they had, believe it or not, which, left him a single man again. Well, he met up with another gal, Elizabeth Jorbo. I think that sounds French to me. So I don't know for sure, but her name was Elizabeth. They got married, and they had 6 more children. So there was a big time in there that he kind of settled down and became this farmer, whatever he did, a hunter, trapper. He was getting older in his age, and
he was in his 70s or 80s.
Yes, well, in 1812 he would have been probably in his 60s, I think, probably late 50s, early 60s. And
well, he was born in 1750 something.
Yeah, so you almost did it too. 1755. And like I said, after the War of 1812, he kind of settled down, and there was this nice lull time where he married and he had a bunch of children, and life was pretty good for him. And he
settled down because he was old.
Yeah, the fight
he settled down because he couldn't run like he did when he was a youngin',
That's exactly right. Well, he lived to 1836, which is quite a long time. He was 81 years old. He died at the age of 81 on April 29th. Believe it or not. They buried him in New Jerusalem, in Logan County, Ohio. Let me go back. During 1812, this is what he's really famous for in the War of 1812. There was a battle, a famous battle that he was in, the Battle of Thames, where the famous Indian Tecumseh was killed. Now, how does this fall into the range of Simon Kenton? Simon Kenton knew Tecumseh, and he knew this other Indian chief. And when Tecumseh was killed, they were going ahead and disemboweling the bodies of these Indians, the chieftains and stuff like that. So when they asked who Tecumseh was, he pointed out some other chief and left Tecumseh's body be not, chopped up in little pieces.
Intact.
Yes, intact. That's what he did for Tecumseh. So that's what he's known for. But anyway, he was buried in Logan County, Ohio, in New Jerusalem at the Oakdale Cemetery. And I got a picture of this somewhere. But anyway, oops, sorry, that was. But anyway, George Rogers Clark. There's a picture of that. Where's this? Darn it! I got this. I got so many pictures. How did that? There we go. Anyway, there's the one. Grave of Simon Kenton. How was that going there? Anyway, so here he was, Simon Kenton, in 1846. But then they moved him to Urban, Ohio, at the battle, or Urban, Ohio. So now that's where his grave lies there, believe it or not.
I wonder why they moved it.
I don't know. Probably put a road in there. You know how that goes?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So anyway, there we go. So that's the life of Simon Kenton. He was quite the Indian fighter. Here's oh, I got it, my second page. Simon Kenton lives on to this day. He has this famous Simon Kenton Trail. He has a Simon Kenton pub, the Simon Kenton Council for Boy Scouts, and he also has the Simon Kenton Road, the Kenton County. There's a county named after him, Kenton County, and he has the Simon Kenton Inn, which was established in 1828. Believe it or not.
Where's the inn? What state does it say?
Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it is here. Is Simon Kenton Station. There's a lot of things after him. About a half mile west of the site of camp made by Simon Kenton and Thomas Williams in the spring of 1775. They left this camp in the fall and visited stations in the area. Kenton returned to camp in 1784, and then brought with him a group of his family and friends during 1784 and 1785. They forfeited the station, which became a major stronghold north of the Kentucky River. Simon Kenton, the hero of Virginia and Kentucky borders, with George Strader and John Yeager, camped on Elk River in 1771 and 1773. Attacked by Indians, Yeager was killed, but Kenton and Strader, although wounded, made their escape. There's a lot of stories. As I was researching him, it was neat to find out how, he was, out in Kentucky, and he was going through areas that were pretty thick until he came across a herd of buffalo who were, making paths through the woods that were like 4 to 5 feet, or 5, real wide anyway.
Yeah.
The buffalo were running through the woods, and they were making these huge paths, breaking down the brush and the branches and stuff like that. Because it's kind of funny, because all the buffalo on the east side of the Mississippi went extinct in 1804. So it's just kind of weird to think how many hundreds and thousands of buffalo there were on the east side, and then when the Americans came across and the colonists stuff, they just wiped them out really fast. And within another 70 or 80 years, there was more of them killed, and they were pretty much extinct by early 1900s. Think of it, just another 100 years, and they killed 30 million of them. Jeez. So yeah, crazy stuff. But like I said, he was He was a brave guy saving Daniel Boone. Um, just an um, all around
So
guy.
he
Hunter.
saved Daniel Boone because he met him.
Yeah, he was his friend. They
No, but
became
I
really
mean,
close.
Boone was naked in the woods on a trail and he met him. But so
Yep.
how did he save him? What was the saving grace?
Well, when he went to Boonesboro and the Indians attacked Boonesboro Fort, there was a big battle. And of course, the men were running out there shooting at the Indians and stuff. And Daniel Boone got hit in the leg, which broke.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. I forgot.
Yes, he broke his leg. And when he broke his leg, he ran out there with his famous loading the gun while, being able to shoot. And then he got out there, shot the Indian that was just about to kill him. Yep. And then after that, he carried him back to the fort safely, believe it or not.
I'm sorry. Short-term memory. I got old person's disease.
That's all right. Like I said, oh shoot, I didn't have this. Here I am flashing these screens, and I'm like, I don't even have that up. Anyway, so Simon Kenton, like I said, really one of the first guys out there, doing the thing. Lived to a ripe old age of 81. Remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago and stuff about living a long, fruitful life like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it was tough in the 17 and 1800s. I mean, there are folks who live longer now, but back in the day, man, if you was 81 years old, you were like, wow.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's almost at 81, he almost lived twice as long as most people.
Yep. Yes, he did. Here's a good one. So we're going back to Kenton, Ohio. So as I was digging through stuff, I found this. And I see, who was it here? Said something about George, not Scotty Boy, George Strait. It was George Rogers. Oh, George Rogers. I thought you were talking about Gene Autry. Well, anyway, here we go. In Kent, the people of Kenton, Ohio, Gene Autry, a certain hero in the white hat in 1937, the town was suffering from Great Depression as the main industry, the Kenton Hardware Company, was failing. Once the largest iron toy manufacturer in the world, the company was forced to drop entire lines of toys due to slow sales. Employees were limited to working 2 days per week. Well, poor Santa Claus ain't going to get his bag full that way. Convinced that the one toy could change their fortunes, Kenton Hardware Company Vice President Willard Blixler envisioned a dual iron cap pistol modeled after Gene Autry's own pearl-handled six-shooter. Bixler contacted Gene's agent, Michael J. Hamelberg, who was representative to the idea, or reprehensive to the idea. Gene then sent one of his six shooters to Kenton as a model. Master toy maker Joe Solomon created the mold for the smaller version and added Gene's signature. The completed toy had a gun metal finish, simulated pearl grips, and retailed for 50 cents. Expensive for 1937. The Gene Autry repeating cap pistols were extremely popular. By 1939, 2 million were sold in the United States and abroad, including Latin America and Europe. Carl Drummond, and a rambling reporter for the Kenton's News and Republic, wrote, the capacity of the local plant was severely strained by the rush of orders that followed introduction of the cap pistol. The force was doubled, and still the plant was unable to keep up with the demand. So the local plant operated day and night, and some of the work was done in other factories. Gene became known as the town's economic saver in the pistol, the toy that saved the entire town. The Gene Autry repeating cap pistol eventually gave birth to other versions, including the junior model, the dummy play gun, and a new engraved shooting iron. Because of these flourished well into the 50s. Kenton declared that August 8th, 1938, Gene Autry Day, and celebrated the rodeo, track and field events, and the softball games. Best of all, however, was the personal appearance of Gene Autry and Champion. They toured the factory and appeared in the Kenton Theater, where they played 5 performances to more than 4,500 people. The night Gene had dinner. Oh, it doesn't say. Anyway, with the people, I suppose. But anyway, I thought that was a little neat because it all happened in Kenton, Ohio, which is named after Simon Kenton. Little tidbit of weird, stuff going on there.
Trivia.
Yeah. Trivia. But like I said, he Kenton, Ohio is Simon Kenton from the Kenton Trail and so forth and so on. And isn't it amazing how when you put it all together and little things happen, and then who would think that a cowboy would come in and save the town of a famous, Western pioneer cowboy kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Gene Autry he was famous in his own time.
Mm-hmm.
As a trick writer and shooter,
Yep.
And he was making, I don't know when he started, but Gene Autry might have started with silent films, but he was very popular back in the 30s and 40s. He was very popular.
Yeah, he was like an Elvis, only before Elvis. I did a short story on the Robert V channel about Gene Autry and how he started his singing career and stuff like that, and the movies and stuff. He had them hits. Everybody knows Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Had a very shiny nose. That was Gene Autry all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he made records. He was like super famous. I mean, for back in the day in the 50s and stuff, he toured everywhere. He had his own rodeo company. He even had his own movie company. He ended up buying a baseball team, a Los Angeles baseball team there. He was like a rock star.
Yeah, Gene Autry was very popular, and then Roy Rogers came along. Yep. Roy Rogers was a little bit behind Gene Autry, but between the two of them, they were more famous than John Wayne.
Yeah. I know. And we all think John Wayne was the big famous guy, but nothing compared to Gene Autry and Roy Rogers. They had it going on.
Roy Rogers and Trigger. Oh my God, Gene
Autry Champion.
Yeah. But the tricks that the horses could do, I mean, it was just amazing. And what do we have nowadays that would compare?
Not much. Not much.
I mean, we've got singers and there's pop stars and there are actors, but ain't one of them all of the above and could ride a horse.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so
who's out there that people, I think the most famous person I can think of is like Taylor Swift, right now. And other than that, it's, you got those, it's all the reality TV show people. That's all it is, and everybody wants to be fancy and highfalutin like a millionaire, walk around. These people like Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, they were like, for the people, they were like you and me. They dressed up in the Western gear that you and me could get. They rode around on a horse. They, had movies that, didn't depict the highfalutin life. You know what I'm saying?
They were always for the little guy, the underdog. They always supported the underdog. Mm-hmm. And I think Roy Rogers had a couple of foundations, like for children and stuff. But the fact that they would go out and literally, let the kids pet the horse, and they would go out and he would do trick shooting and stuff. I mean, he was, he didn't stand on a stage. He was out in the street in the dirt kind of thing, Yeah.
He was like the everyday person, kind of like the Buffalo Bill thing. We talked about. He just traveled around. He was just humble, very nice, generous, all the way through. Whereas, and so was Gene Autry and Roy Rogers. You never hear a bad word about them. Like, oh yeah, don't worry, Gene Autry was cheating on his wife over there with that other girl, and Roy Rogers was riding around with another girl. Wasn't Dale Evans? No, there was none of that stuff. It was Gene Autry and Dale Evans, together, together.
Yeah. And so even after all these years, you hear about stuff. Well, this actress did something and didn't know until after she died. And this actor was something, didn't know until after he died. But Gene Autry and Roy Rogers seem to be platinum, in that nobody can touch them. But if there's nothing there to touch, so I think that's just good. Because, but Lord, we need I say we need a hero, somebody that, who can you literally look up to these days? I mean, honestly, and the movie that, and the movie that they make, what's the guy's name that's in the pirate movies? The famous actor.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. Thank you very much. But Johnny Depp, he's always dressed in something weird, and you never know what his character is, except in the pirate movies. So it's not like, I look up to Johnny Depp because he was a pirate. I mean, so he's a famous actor, but he ain't singing and dancing, and he ain't, so, but who else could fit those shoes?
Yeah, that's the thing, is they don't have people who can do anything anymore. Even music that remember back in the day, almost every single movie that came out had music in it where people sang. What happened to these musical movies? You had Elvis, and he'd be in a movie and he'd sing. You'd have Fred Astaire singing and dancing, and people singing and dancing. And that ain't real life, but it's, Bob Hope, all of them. They did things, they were entertaining, instead of now it's like every movie is either really funny, really stupid, or they're fighting or blowing things up. Where is the good stuff? Where is the, singing guy or the anything? These actors can't do anything, I say.
Yeah, because back in the day, they were talented. They started out, some of them old timers started out in vaudeville. And so you went out with a 5-minute act or 7, or, and entertained, and you had to give it your all for them 5 to 7 minutes, Yeah. And, so they learned how to dance, sing, and juggle, and then when movies came along, they still knew how to sing and dance. But these folk today, they some of them can barely act, in my opinion, and some of them need to go back to acting school, or either that or the acting school's bad. But to the point, though, but who can we really look up to? Oh, there's The Rock.
Yeah.
And, all right, you want to make statues of him?
Yeah, exactly.
And, but he was a wrestler. Yeah, okay. But, he wasn't a superstar in the same way that Rogers and,
no, nothing like that.
Nothing like that. So
that's the thing, is The Rock gets out there. He's kind of an entertainer, but all the movies, everything he makes is just either it's really funny, or it's all blow it up, action drama, action. And
even the comedies are built around some kind of action or fighting or something.
Yeah.
He's got to step in and be the good guy against the bad guys. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Why don't they make a movie about Simon Kenton? His real life is probably more than any movie could probably handle. I swear, this guy, I mean, I just hit the tip of the iceberg on all the adventures this guy had. everything from, floating down a river in a canoe, shooting at the Indians, to, leading people across, to fighting in all these different wars. I mean, it seemed like he was in almost every single battle you could think of. I mean, so many that I couldn't even, I can't even list them all.
And which meant he was on the road a lot.
Yes. Like I said, he didn't even
on the move a lot.
Yeah, he didn't even settle down until, later in life. Like I said, it was probably in his early 50s, 60s, right in there, when he finally met his first wife. And, and too bad she died. They had 3 kids already. And then she died in a house fire. And then he got married again, had 6 more. So, you're starting to add up right there. He had 11 children altogether, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, but he started late in life. That's the bad part. He started late in life. Yeah.
But he still had good genes to have all them children at a later in life.
Yep, exactly. Everybody's putting down different people, even Jason Scott Lee. Who is that guy? I don't know. Anyway, let's see. There was all these different people and stuff. Chuck Norris. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, there's a lot of people, but Chuck Norris is like 80 some years old now. I mean, I was just looking on a thing today, and I found out that, like, Captain Kirk, from the Starship Enterprise, William Shatner's 93, for God's sakes. 93. I'm like, holy cow. Yep, 93.
Goodness gracious, right?
Yeah. Scotty says nothing going on there. House fire. Well, you got to remember that they had lanterns, fire stoves, little ember pops out and burn the damn house down, because you got a big fireplace. All kinds of things. Who knows? Maybe it was Indians.
Well, but also, I don't know if whether or not chimney fires were well known at that time.
Well, it could have been too. Yeah, because
because I was in an old house that had a chimney fire and couldn't put that son of a gun out, and it sounded like a jet airplane. Oh my God! Ooh. And flames leaping out the top of the fireplace, and I'm like, holy Jesus! I'm gonna burn this man's house down. So they were really something. So it could have been that.
Well, and that's the thing too, is there's no fire department to call. You're out there, you got a fire, you better put it out yourself or your house is burning down. Everything.
And then back then they had to drop that bucket in the well and pull it back up. So maybe they had some water in a trough for the horses, but they didn't have near enough water to put a fire out. So
yeah, exactly. There wasn't nothing going. I mean, and everything you did was with fire. You had to cook with fire, heat with fire. You had to have fire to light your house up. I mean, danger everywhere.
Yep.
Well, anyway, I want to give a big shout out. Scotty Boy's in the house. Off the Hook is in the house, and Seeker of Truth too is in the house. Thank you all for coming. Elderberry's in the house, and Regina Hutchelson, thank you for coming. She says tumbling tumbleweeds. Richard's in the house. He was saying Chuck Norris is a famous one. Chloe, I hope she's on her way home.
But Chuck Norris don't sing and dance, and nor does he. Well, he might ride a horse.
Yeah, I've seen him ride a horse, but then again, he's more in the action movies and stuff like that. So,
and he's only known for one thing.
Yes.
Where exactly. Roy Rogers and them, they knew how to sing, they knew how to do this, and they played music, and so they were variety artists. Where Chuck Norris just kung fu.
Yes, exactly.
And that's my point. I'm not saying that there aren't famous people, but they're only known for one thing.
Yep, one thing, and one thing only.
So if you're not into any kind of action movie, then, you ask somebody on who's Chuck Norris. I don't know.
Yep.
But back in the day, you said, do you know who Gene Autry is? Oh, yeah, I've got his record. You know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And do you know who Roy Rogers is? Oh, yeah, and Dale Evans, you know. So, but nowadays you go, do you know who this? I don't, you know, they shrug their shoulders.
Unless it's the
So there's a big difference.
Who's the Kardashians, though? I don't know.
Ooh, there's a porn film out with a minute. Yeah, there you go. That's what they're known for.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? How today's compared to yesterday. Yesterday, that you know, you were all duded up as a cowboy. Today, you got to be all duded down and run around naked with half your clothes, you know, very little clothes on to be considered famous. What's going on with our world? Anyway, okay, well, I'm done with my presentation. We're on with yours, and you got a good story tonight.
I got two of them. And I don't know how long the second one is. I just know that this first one is only 2.5 pages. Okay. So give me a half a second. Let me rearrange stuff here so I don't lose. All right, let's see if that works. I got the cell phone teetered up here on the, where's my cursor at? Okay. So this first story out is called The Friendship of an Otter. Once in the fall of the year, a chief and 6 or 8 families went on a hunting expedition. For many days they found no game. At last the chief, who had as a charm a fawn skin pouch, called the party to his brush house and told each person to take hold of the pouch and say what animal he would kill the next day. The first man said he would kill a bear. The chief's wife said she would kill a wild goose. As the pouch was passed from one to another, the chief's daughter told her husband not to touch it, and when it came near, she grasped his hand to keep him from doing so. But he pulled it away and, taking hold of the pouch, said, "Tomorrow before daylight, I will kill 2 otters." At midnight, he got up and went to where the river doubled nearly around, and there he watched for otters. Soon he saw 2, and he killed both of them. He was hungry, and it wasn't daylight. He cut open each otter and took out the heart. He roasted and ate the hearts and then went home. Unwittingly, he had destroyed the power of the charm. That day, each person came home without game. The chief's wife said she would get a wild goose, but when she clapped her hands and called, "Let them fall, let them fall," they all flew over, for the charm was broken. The chief examined the 2 otters, and when he saw that the hearts had been taken out, he was very angry. The young man's wife was frightened. She hid a piece of meat and a knife, telling her husband where he would find them in case of need. The chief said, "My son-in-law has broken the charm. We'd better kill him." The daughter said, "If you kill him, kill me too." The chief, who didn't want to kill his daughter, said, "We will strip him naked, leave him, and go far away." They stripped the young man and went off, taking his wife with them. At midnight, when all alone, the young man heard somebody coming on snowshoes. It was winter. A man pushed the door open and said, "You think that you are going to die, but you are not. I have come to save you. Tomorrow morning, follow my tracks to a hollow tree. There is a bear in the tree. Kill it, and you will have plenty of meat, and the bear's skin will keep you warm. Make you a blanket and moccasins. The next morning, the young man could see no tracks except rabbit tracks. He followed them to a hollow tree and found a bear. He killed the bear, skinned it, and carried the carcass to the house. Of the skin, he made a blanket and moccasins. At midnight again, he heard someone coming on snowshoes. Then a voice said, "Last night I sent you help. Tonight I have come to tell you that your wife will be here tomorrow at midday. She thinks you are dead, and she has left her father's camp to come and find you. In the morning, send her for her father and the people who are with him. Let her say, 'My husband has plenty of meat for you all.' They will be glad, for they have no meat." At midday, the young woman came, and the next morning her husband sent her to tell her father and friends to come to his camp. That night, the stranger came to the brush house and said, "Your father will be glad that you have meat. He will show his charms and give you your choice of them. Take the one he says is of no account. It is wrapped in a piece of bear skin and is my finger that I lost when he caught me in a trap. He will tell you to take one of the other charms, but take that and no other." The next morning, the father-in-law and his people came back. The old chief unwrapped his charms and told his son-in-law to take his choice. The young man took the one wrapped in a bearskin. "Oh, that one is of no account," said the chief. "Here is a better one." But the young man said, "I will keep this one." And he went out to look for the person to whom the finger belonged. He hadn't gone far when he saw a house in the middle of an opening, and in the house he found the stranger who had befriended him and gave him the finger. The old man thanked him and said, "I will always be your friend, and you will succeed in everything you undertake." As the man was going home, he turned to look at the house. It had disappeared, and what he had thought was a field, he now saw was a lake. Ever after this, the young man had good luck. He became a great hunter, and when his people made war on a neighboring tribe, he took many scalps. Whatever he wished for, he had. And all this came from the friendship of the otter, whose finger he returned. The end. Now, this next story, and I learned a version of this years ago, but I don't know. It was Cherokee, I believe. So, and this being Seneca, I don't know if the premise of the story is the same. We'll see here in a minute. So the name of the story is How Chipmunks Got Their Stripes. Now, for those of you who have not ever seen a chipmunk, they got two black stripes down their back. And so, Dishoguayas. Say that real quick. Chipmunk. Dacidowanes. Big feet. One name for bear. A grandmother and granddaughter were living together. They had a skin blanket, but it was old and a good deal of the hair was worn off. The two women went to the forest to camp and cut wood, and they carried the blanket to cover themselves with at night. They had been in the forest only a few days when they found that their skin blanket was alive and was angry. They threw the blanket down and ran toward home as fast as they could go. Soon they heard the skin following them. When it seemed very near, the grandmother began to sing, and her song said, "My granddaughter and I are running for our lives. My granddaughter and I are running for our lives." When the song ended, the women could scarcely hear the skin following them, but not long afterward, they heard the skin again. When they reached home, the skin, now a bear, was so near as they pushed open the door, it clawed at them and scratched their backs, but they got in. The old woman and her granddaughter were chipmunks. Since that time, chipmunks have stripes on their backs, the result of the scratches given by the bear. The end. And yep, it's not the same story, but how they got them from the bear is the same. And before there was something, the chipmunk had found some food and bear was hungry or something, and the chipmunk was trying to fool him. And next thing you know, the bear was mad and the chipmunk was trying to get away and he clawed him. And that's the Cherokee version, in that, that's how they got their stripes. But either way, in either story, it was a bear who gave it to them. So that's interesting. So, but anyway, that's two quick ones right there, ain't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Two pretty quick ones. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm looking to see how long this next one in. It's a bunch of pages.
Yeah, it's a bunch of pages, but
all right.
So I don't know. You want another one or not?
No, this other one might put us over.
Well, it's only quarter after, so it's up to you.
Well, it's called A Child Fed by Animals.
Okay, hang on.
Let me get back up to the page. But yeah, we can do another one. Around 438.
Yep, I got it. I was looking for how many pages it was, so I had to scroll back a little bit.
What is it, 5?
Something like that, yeah. It's up to you. If you want to go for it.
No, I'll read it. I mean, I just looked at the clock to see how we were on time, and we got,
I couldn't believe we went so fast. Those were the shortest stories ever.
Almost.
Almost. They're like a half a page each or something, But that's all right.
The first one was 3.5 pages. But anyway, okay. So our next story here, again, we are still in the Seneca book of stories that was written back at the time of 1904, I think it is. But anyway. I'm sorry, 1923. The story is a child fed and cared for by a porcupine and a bear. A widower who had a little son married a second time, and soon after he took his wife and child and went to the forest to camp and hunt. The three lived happily till the woman began to think that her husband loved the child better than he did her. This worried her and made her uneasy. She could think of nothing else, and she began to study how to get rid of the boy. One day, while her husband was hunting, she led the child to a cave in the woods, told him there was a bear in the cave and that he must crawl in and scare it. Make it run out at the other end of the opening. The child crept in. The woman rolled a stone up, closed the opening, and went home. When the man came from hunting, he missed his boy and asked where he was. The woman said that when she went to gather bark, the child was at play near the house. But when she came back, she couldn't find him, that she had hunted everywhere. She was afraid he had been carried off by some wild beast. The father was nearly crazy. He hunted many days for the child, but could only find tracks made by his little moccasins, tracks that the stepmother had made far into the woods to mislead and deceive the father. When the child found that he couldn't get out of the cave, he began to scream. All at once a voice said, "Poor child, stop crying. I am your grandmother. I will give you something to eat." And a hand wiped away his tears. And then somebody brought him food that he thought was very nice, though it was only hemlock burrs. The woman in the cave was a porcupine, and she gave the boy some of the food she had saved for herself. When he had eaten enough, she said, "You are tired, my little grandson. Come and lie down." In this way, the woman cared for the child a long time. One day she said, "My burrs are gone. It is spring now. You'll not be cold out of doors. Your stepmother fastened us in here, but I can call my neighbors and they will let us out. When we are out, I must leave you in their care and go to hunt for food." She went to the opening and called for help. Soon the boy heard a noise and voices outside the cave, and after a while he heard a man ask, "Who can push away this stone?" The bird people came and pecked at the stone. They could do nothing. Some small animals scratched at the stone, but it didn't move. One after another tried, and all failed. At last, Wolf said, "I can pull that stone away. I'm the man to do it." He pushed his long claws under the stone and pulled till at last his hold gave way and he fell over on his back. Deer with his long horns tried to raise the stone. All tried except one in his way, from the smallest to the largest, except a bear that sat off a short distance with 3 cubs playing near her. When all had failed, Bear said, "I'll try." She walked slowly to the stone, examined it, and made up her mind how to act. Then she quickly moved the stone. Looking into the cave, she saw Porcupine and a little boy, and was so frightened that she ran away from the opening. Others looked in, were frightened, and ran till they were far enough away to make sure of escape. Then they waited to see what would happen. Porcupine came out and called to them not to be afraid, and said, "We are very poor, my grandson and I." And she told them how the boy came to be there, and that her burrs were gone. She said, "You are able to care for my grandson, and I want to leave him with you." Even the bird people said they would care for the child. "I must know what you can give him to eat," said Porcupine. "And when I find out which one of you can supply food that my grandson can eat, I will give him to that one." Each one brought a little bit of food they could furnish and put it down before Porcupine. Wolf brought what he had to eat. Porcupine looked at it and then sighed. What would you do and the boy do in case of danger? We would run. No, said Porcupine. My grandson can't go with you. He couldn't run fast enough. Deer came with food, but when Porcupine asked, what would you do in case of danger? He ran off so swiftly that his horns could be heard knocking against the trees. Last of all, Bear came forward and said, others have failed, and though I have a large family of my own, I will take care of the boy and feed him as I feed my cubs on blackberries, chestnuts, and fruit. When asked what she would do in danger, she went back to her cubs and gave the sign of danger. The cubs crouched down by a log, and the mother bear lay down near them and watched. This is what I do, said she. We lie still till the danger is past. I know where berries grow. I will take the boy there. I know where my winter quarters will be. My cubs and your grandson will get nourishment by sucking my fat paws. You are the one to take care for the child, said Porcupine. I am going for food. The boy never saw Porcupine again. When the bear led him to the berries, he thought, she took him by the hand as a human being would. The cubs became fond of the boy, and when their mother was laying asleep in the sun, they pulled his fingernails to make them long like their own, and tried to teach him to climb trees as they did. At last, the boy could almost equal the cubs in climbing, for his nails were long and sharp. One day, the mother bear woke up and couldn't see the boy. Then, a long way off, she saw him, high up in a tree. She scolded the cubs, was very angry with them, and put the boy's nails back as they were before. Summer passed and winter came. Then the mother bear said, it is time to go to our den. And she led her cubs and the boy to a hollow tree. The boy thought there was plenty of room in the tree. He and the cubs played together and were happy. The mother bear slept most of the time, but when there was a noise, she wakened in an instant and said, keep still. There is a hunter around. There was a crack in the tree and they could look out. Soon after a warning, they would see a man coming. Then the boy thought the mother bear put her hand in her pocket and drew out something that had two prongs, put it through the crack and moved it to and fro till the hunter was out of sight. Then she drew it in. All went well till one day towards spring when they heard a hunter coming. Though they all kept very still, the mother bear said to the boy, I think that our time has come. You can stay here, but we must go. We are bears, but you are a human being. The hunter will take you home and you will be cared for. The mother bear put out her two-pronged bow, but she could do nothing. All her magic power was gone. When the hunter came near, he saw claw marks in the bark of the tree. The eldest crawled out of the tree, and that instant, the boy heard the whiz of an arrow. As he watched the little bear, it seemed to throw off a pack. The pack fell to the ground, but the little bear itself went straight on, never stopping. The other little bears followed, and each shared the fate of the first. Each time the boy heard the whiz of an arrow and saw the pack fall, but as he saw his friends still running, he wasn't frightened. When her children had gone, the mother bear said to him, "I have to go. You must be obedient, and all will be well." The boy heard a whiz and saw a burden drop to the ground, but the mother bear ran on as her children had done. Now the boy screamed, for he was alone. The hunter heard the scream and was frightened, but remembering that a child had been lost, he set to work and soon had the boy out of the tree. The child was naked and unable to talk. The hunter skinned the bears and made him clothing. The boy was terribly grieved, but he couldn't speak to let the hunter know how dear the bears were to him. The hunter took the boy to his father, who was overjoyed to find the child, and ever after took him with him wherever he went. The end. That took less than 15 minutes.
Well, that's kind of sad. Hunter shot the bears and then skinned him and then put him in the skin, and that was his friends. You know?
Yeah, that would have been traumatic.
Yeah, but he couldn't speak.
Yeah, and that boy, the follow-up of that story is he had to go to counseling.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be rude, but
Yeah.
Grandmother, how come he killed the bears?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Oh. Huh.
Wow, we got done early, didn't we?
We did. I suppose you even drew a card already.
No, not yet. I'm shuffling the cards now. Earlier I was gonna do this, and they said, "Nah, wait." And I went, "Okay." Nah, wait a little while. All right. So I think earlier, who's going to be here, to shuffle the cards when everybody's here kind of thing is like everybody's present and accounted for, and we're going to shuffle the cards, where before, I don't know, they were like, "Nah, not yet. Wait a little bit." So ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
So how many people went nuts in your area over the eclipse?
None. I think
Good.
none. I don't think I didn't even see it. I looked up and I'm like, I don't see nothing. Didn't even get dark here or nothing. I mean, nothing changed. And guess what? We all made it through it.
Yep, we sure did.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so everybody, think about the message you want.
Oh, well, we make it till next week. Week by week, that's what we're doing.
Ooh, first card up is Mouse.
Mouse? We haven't had Mouse in a while.
Rootin' Eyes. Ooh, next one up is Badger Upside Down. Two furry little critters.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Yep, they wanted a third card, and it happens to be Mountain Lion. So we haven't had any of these cards in a while. I mean, generally speaking. So, wait, let me find my book. There it is.
We had Mountain Lion a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, but, it's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but we haven't had Mouse in like forever.
Forever, I don't think. And Badger has been a while.
Yes.
Doggone it, I can't tell. Is that the 20 or a 30? Mouse. 20. Yep, I was right. Mouse is scrutiny. And I just murdered 2 of them yesterday. Mouses. Actually, I fed them to the cats, so.
They didn't go to total waste.
Nope. But they were eating up everything. I mean, if they would just be nice a little bit. But, you know, when they ran between my legs last night and scared the crap out of me, I was like, that's it.
Yeah, they gotta go.
Mouse, if I could see the world through your tiny eyes, maybe then I would know how to scrutinize. Every detail carries weight and true to its purpose. Has its perfect puzzle place to stop the 3-ring circus. And I guess that means, you know, craziness in life, right? Mouse says, I will touch everything with my whiskers in order to know it. Paradoxically, this is both a great power and a great weakness. It is good medicine to see up close. It is good medicine to pay attention to detail. But it is bad medicine to chew every little thing to pieces. Mouse has many predatory enemies, including birds and snakes, and even cats, of course. Since mouse food is for many, it has a highly developed sense of danger at every turn. So-called civilization is a highly complex set of components which calls for more and more organizational skills and scrutiny to detail every year. Mouse is a powerful medicine to have in these modern times. Things that may appear insignificant to others can take on enormous importance to mouse. Most people anger many other medicine types because they appear to be nitpickers. Mouse people will spot the lint on your coat even if it matches in color. They will try to convince you that the simplest task is fraught with difficulty. They are fixated on methodology. They sort and categorize and file away for later use. They may seem like they are hoarding, but that is the farthest thing from Mouse's mind. They are merely putting everything in order so they will be able to explore it more carefully at a later date. The chief tells us that without Mouse, there would be no systematization of knowledge. Mouse ended the Renaissance man and hearkened the age of speculation. Mouse knew from the very beginning that there is always more to learn. One can always delve deeper and deeper and deeper. If your personal medicine is mouse, you may be fearful of life, but you are well organized. You should try to see a larger picture than the one staring you in the face. That's the trouble with mouse. Mouse feels with its whiskers. He knows everything around him, but he don't know what's outside. Develop largeness of spirit. Try to become aware of the great dance of life. Realize that even though you may be sitting in Los Angeles, there is also a New York, a moon, a solar system, a galaxy, and an infinite universe to jump through. Jump high, little friend, you will glimpse the sacred mountain. So that's mouse. And, you know, There are a lot of folks who are kind of nitpickers in this life, and I mean they keep their head down and they're always, oh, there's dirt in the corner, but they won't go out and sit on the porch and watch the sun go down, and both of those things are important. 29. We are going into Badger upside down. So, whether most folks know it or not, badgers live under the ground, and they are notorious for being aggressive. Badger, 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 until you reach your goal. Know the inner power that lives within your soul. Badger is aggressiveness. Badger is vicious and attacks with powerful aggression. Badger is quick to anger and quicker to pounce. The power of Badger's medicine is aggressiveness and the willingness to fight for what it wants. The very thought of facing a badger makes other animals run for cover. Like skunk, Badger's reputation precedes it. Its hissing fangs will tear less aggressive opponents to shreds. Badger is the medicine of many powerful medicine women. For Badger is also the keeper of the medicine roots. Badger sees all the roots of Mother Earth's healing herbs hanging in its burrow home. These roots are a key to aggressive healing. Roots can ground negative energy into the earth by allowing illness to pass through the body into the ground as neutral energy. Badger medicine people are quick to act in a crisis, and they do not panic. Now, this card was upside down, so there's a lot of other stuff about Badger, but I'm going to the contrary. Oops. Here comes Badger upside down and fuming. This could mean that you are being chewed out by someone else, or that you have expressed your anger in an unhealthy way. If this applies to you, remember that all anger stems from anger towards the self. They want me to read that again. You have expressed your anger in an unhealthy way. If this applies to you, remember that all anger stems from anger towards the self. It is an anger of helplessness that is misdirected towards others. If you are angry at a coworker for telling the boss that you were looking for another job, you are really angry at yourself for not keeping your own secret. If you are angry at your children for disobeying, it is usually anger that stems from fear for the children's well-being. This self-anger condition is usually present when you have silly accidents or falls and cuts and scrapes, or when you find yourself bumping into furniture. Badger, in the contrary position, can issue in a time of reflection on what you feel helpless about. Is it your lack of aggressiveness or initiative? Is it your fears of being blasted or belittled if you present a new idea? Maybe it is time when you need to get in touch with your own jealousy or envy of others who are willing to put themselves on top through hard work. In the reverse, Badger teaches you the pitfalls of shyness and insecurity, as well as of misused or vicious aggression. Go to your feelings. Maybe you just need to let off some steam. If so, scream into a pillar and then punch it a few times. It will surely put Badger back into balance. In another context, contrary Badger could be calling you to use herbs and roots to heal your body. Badger reverse may also be putting you on notice to be aware of those areas of your life that need the input of someone else's aggressive creativity to spark your own creativity. In any case, contrary Badger speaks of a need for more aggressive action in life. No more inactivity can prevail without creating pain of some kind. So, sounds like get up your butt. And I think at this particular point, the message seems to be that, Mouse is telling you, scrutinize, but not too much, right? And then upside down, here's Badger, more or less sitting still, so maybe Mouse, maybe you're scrutinizing too much and it's time to get up and be more aggressive, which is what they seem to be telling me at the moment. So if that sounds like you, get up off the couch. I know it's a message for me. 17 is Mountain Lion, leadership. Mountain Lion, O kingly leader of sleek feline form, touch my heart with courage and then sound the alarm, that I may lead with foresight, assurance bright and true, to carry on the spirit of the strength I see in you. Mountain Lion can be a very difficult power totem for you to have because it places you in a position to be a target for the problems of others. You could be blamed for things going wrong or for always taking charge when others cannot. You could become the perfect justification for the insecurities of others. Mountain Lion medicine involves lessons on the use of power in leadership. It is the ability to lead without insisting that others follow. It is the misunderstanding that all beings are potential leaders in their own way. The use and abuse of power in a position of influence are part of this great cat's medicine. By observing the graceful pounce of Mountain Lion, you will learn how to balance power, intentions, physical strength, and grace. This relates in human terms to the balance of the body, mind, and spirit. The giant feline never wastes anything. It only kills when it needs for survival. The female lion is the hunter who graces her table in a style akin to mother energy. If Mountain Lion has come to you in dreams, it is time to stand on your convictions and lead yourself where your heart takes you. Others may choose to follow, and the lesson will multiply. If you pulled the card of Mountain Lion, you may be asked to review the purpose behind your personal beliefs. So there's Mouse that's a scrutinizer. It's the Badger who's upside down, meaning you need to act on something. And here's Mountain Lion, saying that you may be asked the purpose behind your own personal beliefs. You may need to discover whether or not your plans include a pride of clubs or to shame or to share in your dreams. If you are already a leader, the question may be whether or not the time has come to push the cubs out of the cave. If you are aligned with cat medicine, you are considered to be king of the mountain. and never allow to be human or vulnerable. The pitfalls are many, but the rewards are great. In assuring the place of power that Mountain Lion affords, you must constantly be aware of keeping the peace. And that's something that we all need to be aware of these days. You know, I was at a wedding on Sunday, and there were some folks, you know, from the Mennonite church, and they weren't necessarily trying to push religion, but they kind of sort of were in a nice way. I got to say, they were very polite and so forth. But, you know, I didn't go there to be preached at, but it was my buddy Rob's funeral. And I did need to be there. But the Mennonite folks, they're very nice, I'm saying. But, you know, they kept, well, you know, how do you feel about Jesus? And, you know, and Jesus is the way. And you know, if it weren't for Jesus. And I was like, look, I don't have a problem with Jesus. I really don't. But when people try to tell me that everything in my life is somehow it was Jesus' fault, somehow one way or the other. And I'm like, some of this stuff was my fault. You know, I'm the one that tripped and fell. But anyway, but with the cards tonight, I'm curious. I want to say that some folks are scrutinizing too much. In other words, they're picking stuff apart, not necessarily chewing it up and destroying it, but they're just picking stuff apart too much, and they can't look up and see what else is going on. And so, and if you're Badger, you're stuck down in a burrow, and how much can you see from a hole in the ground? And Mountain Lion is telling you to be strong. So be strong, get out of the hole, and quit scrutinizing so much.
That is true. That is so true.
It's good to read the fine print, but you know, there are some folks that are just, you know, well, let me read the fine print over here. Well, let me read this. Well, let me read this. Anyway. So absolutely keep an eye on what's going on in your life and around you, especially business deals and so forth. But because you need to scrutinize. But if you scrutinize to the point where you don't make the deal or something, you can overdo it. And I think that's what Mouse is trying to tell us. You can overdo it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good message. Good message for tonight. You know?
And we still made it.
We did. We made
3
it.
cards and we still made it. Oh my gosh.
3
We're
stories, cards, and I had, see, that's because I had my ducks in a row tonight. I hope that all made sense with my storytelling. I put a lot of effort into putting it in timeline so it made sense. So anyway, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Scotty Boy, Elderberry, Queen Peachy Keen, thank you. Richard's in the house. Let's see who else. Elderberry, Mark the Spark Arc, Seeker of Truth 2. Chloe was in the house here. She's probably listening. She's getting ready probably for, you're going to have a show tonight? You've been having quite a few shows.
For a little while. Yes, since we're early.
You've been having quite a few shows. Good for you. I enjoy. So there you go.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. And I'm always praying that you will accept and receive the knowledge and the healing and the wisdom from the universe. And thank you always for showing up and lending us your energy. It's always welcome. Now back to you, Robert.
With that, remember everybody, you know, go out, do something nice for yourself and for your neighbor. You know, things are crazy in the world, but, you know, you can make them just a little bit better in your own little world. Remember, you got a little bubble. You're living in it. Make the world around you the best it can possibly be. And if we all did that, we'd have lots of really good love bubbles hanging around with us. And Witchy Moon's in the house. Thank you. Thank you, too. But like I said, we'd have all these good love bubbles, and then it would change the world. So with all of that, remember, everybody, go out and be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all, everybody. Peace, everybody.